Hey there, it's Workbench for Workbench Quagmire. Back again for day 24. I said we were going to start this build a user configuration manager certification project. Um, but what I want to do is something close to it. Um, see, we worked through a bunch of stuff here. We get to this, and then I don't really want to just show everybody, hey, here's how you complete it, and then everybody just types in the same thing. I want you to work through this. This is actually fairly easy based on um, the stuff we've gone through so far. In fact, it doesn't really use a lot of things. It's basically functions that do some ifs and maybe iterate through a list or something like that in or a dictionary and just create this thing here. So what I want to do is I want to make something similar, but I want to use a little bit more than what we learned. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to go through here and we're going to look at this Python basics. We go in here, basics review. This tells us everything we covered in here, and we don't really need to cover the installation or anything like that with this project. We'll declare variables. We'll use comments and use multi-line strings. We will use these different types, so floats, strings, booleans, tuples, ranges, possibly. But what I want to do is use these things, including, well, it's not going to be in here. Loops and sequences, possibly. Nope. Oh, what I do want to try to use enumerate, possibly zip, list comprehensions, and lambdas as we go through this. And then modules. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a module for our CRUD operations, our create, read, update, and delete operations. And then we're going to have a main file for the expense tracker is what we're going to build. And so what we'll do is we'll put our kind of main logic in the expense tracker file, and then we will put the CRUD functions in another file, and we will import them and use them, and that'll create a much cleaner main file. It'll also allow us to have a much cleaner CRUD file that we can have very clean looking code just with the functions, and then we can have our main file or our expense tracker.py, I think is what we're going to call it, that we'll go in and we'll interact with. The project doesn't use user input. It doesn't use modules. I believe it just uses dictionaries, list, maybe not even list. I mean, it's pretty basic. So, if we go back in here, function name add settings. So that's create. And then it's got these things like, convert the key to a lowercase, and then check if the key exists or not, and just return some text. Then update from CRUD. So we create an update function. We create a delete settings thing that goes in there and looks for the key and deletes it. If it doesn't find it. And then as a view or read thing. So CRUD. And then at the end, you get this output. So I think that what I would like to do is create a slightly more complicated version of this. Again, I was planning on taking 5 days for this. So this will be day 1. Day 24 will be day 1 of this thing. And I'm basically just going to set up the basics of it and talk a little bit about what we're going to do. And then on day 2, 3, 4, and 5, we will actually build out the create, read, update, delete, and a basic user interface that's going to ask us things like, would you like to create a track and expense? And we'll use amounts and categories, and we'll track all those in a dictionary again, possibly, or maybe just a list. But I would like to try to use possibly regular expressions, sets, because I think sets are good for the categories. We could, you put a category in and it says, hey, our view could say for each category, here's the total. And we'd only want one category. So if you put those categories in set, then if every time you add one, it'll basically only add if it doesn't exist, right? So, that is what we're going to do. So let's switch over here to the terminal. I don't think I've done any terminal stuff up till now. I may have done a little bit. I can't remember. So here's this little README file thing. I'm just basically going to track kind of what we're doing here. So we're going to make a CRUD app for expense tracking. I'm going to make some notes in here about what I want to use. We want to use regular expressions, modules. We want to have a user like interface, which the project doesn't really have. You just create all the functions and you do all the testing for the functions. So this will have a little bit of a command line user interface. It'll kind of greet you and ask you what you want to do. It may actually, let's say, with a greeting. And then we want to check for existing transactions. And we'll kind of cheat on that a little bit. What we'll do is we'll have it check for transactions in a dictionary or something, and then by default we won't have anything in there. And just to test it out, it's kind of like a way of like saying, hey, we're gonna make a hard drive file or something. We're not going to do that yet. I'm sure that's covered in this certification, but we haven't got to the part where you create files and read files and that sort of stuff. And once we do that, maybe we'll build on this as we go through and just show that, hey, you can create like a CSV file to track all these transactions in. We could, make it much more elaborate once you have a way of storing it on your computer. Storing it in the memory temporarily is a little bit restrictive. So check for transactions. We'll ask user wants to do. So that'll be our CRUD. You want to create, read, update, or delete a transaction. And then provide reports. I'm going to say reports because I think we should have list of expenses and then a summary by category. So that's what we're going to start off by doing here. I'm going to jump over here. So right now we're going to have two files. I'm not going to explain all the command line bash, terminal stuff I'm going to do here. That's easy to learn online. There's lots of great resources for that. I only know probably the basics. So one of them is touch, which will actually create a file. And so we want our module to be called crud.py. And then we also want one expense tracker. .py. There we go. And so I'm going to split this window one more time. And hopefully this looks okay on the video when I'm done. Let's make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Then we're going to make this smaller because what we're going to do is we're going to we'll test this as we go along and we'll run that down here. Then I'll use this window here to start working on the files. So first we'll go, and again, I'm going to use Vim for this. If you want to use a IDE, a VS Code or something like that, you can go right ahead. I mean, it'll really help you quite a bit, but this is such a simple thing. I think we can get away with not doing that. So again, this first one here, I'm just going to create some basic functions with pass statements. We're going to link the we're going to import the module into the expense tracker and give ourselves a basic greeting message, and that'll be it for this video. And then the next video we'll do the first part of the interface, and we will start on the interface, and then also work on the create part of this, the CRUD. We'll create an expense, and we'll kind of define what that looks like, how we're going to store it. And we'll go from there. So in here, it's good form to put like a doc string up here that I'm not going to fill in right now. I'm just going to put, and as we go along, we'll see where that shows up for us, because these things are helpful. And I think it's, you can get started without doing these sort of things, but all the really helpful things that I showed you could do with like dir and help, they depend on this sort of commentary in your code to basically say, hey, here's what's going on with this thing. So that would probably be one of the things we do at the end, is go through and clean up some of this stuff and make it so that when we look at it with dir and help, that it actually gives us useful information on how to use the program. So first, define create expense. We don't know what this is going to take yet, but it's probably going to take, we'll just call it expense. Then we'll pass. And then we will read expenses. Say takes data. Update expense. We will say it takes an expense. And finally, delete expense. And then we need an if name equals main. Then what will we do? Just for now, we'll say print hello. Okay, we wrote that one. Now this is me changing files or buffers. And so now we're going to go to expense tracker. We're going to put the same thing at the top. And then after that, we do our imports. We know we're going to, you put your custom imports last. And so we wanted to use regular expressions. So we're going to import that. And then we're going to import our CRUD. And we're going to just for now print hello. Welcome to your Python expense tracker. I'm just doing a terrible job of typing here. Okay. When we go down here, we should be able to run expense tracker, or we may get an error. So Python expense tracker. Hello, welcome to your expense tracker. All right. And then we should also be able to, because we have that if name equals main function in there, we can say Python CRUD. It's just going to say hello. So there we go. We have our two files created. We're importing our CRUD file, which has the beginnings of our functions in it. Next time, we'll work a little bit more on this greetings interface, and we'll create the We'll create squared the function to create expense transactions or expenses for our expense tracker. So thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next time.